So, logistically, we have a very private culture that we live in. People are used to sleeping in a bedroom with only their family or close loved ones and being very solitary. We have a lot of private space that we're used to. That was part of the original interest in doing something like this 36 years ago. I was thinking a lot about how to make art that would change the way we experience our day-to-day life, and to do something that would be more relevant, or let's say more powerful, than the standard behaviors of going to a gig or going through your usual patterns in life. I was thinking a lot about other cultures that have a closer connection to an interior life, or to a mythic dimension in their experience of the world. And one of the things that's often common with tribal societies is that they are sleeping together in family groups or in large village groups. You go to New Guinea and there's roundhouses where the entire village of maybe 100 people, 80 people, are all sleeping in the same building together. There's really no privacy. And for other cultures, that's actually considered to be an essential part of community. So I realized that there was a way to connect the way I enjoyed using sound, which was in this blanket of kind of engulfing, womb-like sort of sound, and to try to bring it into a place where I was encouraging people to come out to a communal ritual, to actually do something that was connected to their bodies, connected to their community, to the world around them. Lately, I've been using this word a lot, embodiment, to differentiate what I want to see in our future, as opposed to virtual or virtuality. As our technologies take us further and further out of our body and into a complete headspace, separated from physicality, I'm afraid that we're going to miss some of the most essential things that it is to be alive, to be an animal, and also the fact that our planet is taking a huge hit for the consumption that our species is engaging in right now. As we become more grounded, as we find a way to enter back into our bodies, we realize that there's actually this planet that supports them, and that needs to be a connection. So, what is this about? For one thing, it's not going to help you sleep better. You've probably already figured that out because you're with 100 other strangers here. When people are in a room together, in a group, their activation level goes up, in fact. Your physiological signs of arousal heartbeat, breath, blood pressure, they actually increase simply by being in a room with other people. But why do this thing? Why play music and encourage people to sleep? Well, it's because I wanted to try to find a way to make the music a thread into altered states of consciousness, and to provide an environment that encourages exploring our unconscious mind and exploring the way that our brain creates reality. This room, me up here talking to you, exists inside of your mind. I'd like to think it also exists out here, because I think I'm existing, but you are building it actively. And that's what happens in sleep. When you're dreaming, you're building the worlds in real time. Our minds do that all the time. It's what they do. And it is so prevalent, it is so constant, that we forget that we are building this world and that it's a constructed reality. So as we sleep, we go through altered states of consciousness. We go through several states of sleep. In stage 1 sleep is a very light stage of sleep, and we can still respond to environmental stimuli. That's when you still hear the sound in the room. And that's probably the stage of sleep where this music is most oriented. There's a phenomenon called hypnagogic imagery. They also call it hypnopompic imagery, depending on when you go into sleep or out of sleep. And these are these strange, nonlinear thoughts or images or words that you hear in your head that are happening right as you're in that half state of sleep. Usually we forget them. We don't remember that we had those visions because when we're falling asleep, the short-term memory goes away. It stops lodging into long-term memory. But if we have these little disruptions, like the music, or like the people around you, or this strange environment, this weird ritual we're participating in, you won't be going into sleep as often. You won't be going into as deep a sleep. And so you can actually use the music as a thread, like a pebble skipping across the top of a lake. That lake is deep, it goes deep underwater, but for moments in time you can surf the top. And it can be very interesting to examine the strange places your mind can go when it's in a very creative, unlocked state of half sleep, half awake. I think of it a little bit like a cave explorer who might leave a thread behind them in the cave as they're going down so they don't get lost. The music is like that thread. It's something that reminds you of where you are. And likewise, if you go into a deeper state of sleep, like in REM sleep, where we have our longest, most complex dreams, the music and the strange activation that we have can create more vivid dreams and more powerful dreams sometimes, simply by the nature of being in a strange place, doing something that you don't do normally, like this. Dreams can be weird. And you're more likely to wake up because you won't be as comfortable, and there will be other sounds happening around you. Sometimes for people, these activated dreams can be unpleasant, they can be intense, and so don't worry about that if that's the case. It's just part of your brain processing the natural stimulation that's happening from the environment. So oftentimes if we're having a nightmare, really what's going on is our brain is feeling activation in the sympathetic nervous system, and then it's trying to build a story around it to explain why the sympathetic nervous system is activated. In this case also, you will be more activated, and so your brain might go into overdrive, making really intense dreams. And especially if you don't fear the dreams, and if you're willing to explore them, you can find that intensity to be very profound. When I was researching in psychophysiology, my main focus was lucid dreaming. This was back at Stanford in the early 80s. I was working for a fellow named Stephen LaBerge, and we were working on ways to train people to be better lucid dreamers. And we found that often the lucid dreams, by the way, a lucid dream is when you become aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming, and you stay asleep and you can actively participate consciously in the dream, knowing that it's a dream. You can be an actor with intention instead of just an actor with a script. oftentimes people got to be good lucid dreamers because they would have frequent nightmares. And they got used to solving the nightmare by realizing, wait a minute, I had this weird dream of somebody chasing me just last night. I know it's a dream. I'm going to turn around and talk to this thing chasing me and tell it that I'm not afraid. Things like that. So oftentimes, by trying to create this ritual experience of communal focusing on sound and on interior, we can find ourselves experiencing unusual things like lucid dreams or like interesting hypnagogic images. And that's really what this is all about. This is about allowing a space for an unusual exploration. And it's kind of a ritual space. We're here together on a journey together. And that's about all I have to say. And enjoy the journey with me. Thanks.